it will bankrupt our country.
So the issue that we have is, first of all, for any is to make yourself clear, make your wishes known. Now, if you're thinking, well, I have to be an ally, because that's a lie from the pit of hell that the Democrats have sold to their constituents, that certain people have to be allies with other people in order for them to win. And on a strictly numbers basis, that's true. But when it comes to protecting your own best interests, especially the interests of blacks in America, people who believe in the rule of law, any person who's lost a child or family member to an illegal alien murder, drunk driving incident, etc., then you're going to be much more on the side of, hey, wait a minute. If someone's not supposed to be here and they've killed someone, then that means this person didn't have to die. So I want to be patently clear that there are situations where someone should be allowed to enter into the United States on a asylum basis, but, and that's a very strong but, we take more refugees and asylum applicants than any other nation on the planet. We take more than a number of the nations combined, the same nations that like to lecture us on how horrible we Americans are on this or that policy. So there's no room for anyone to castigate us on our level of generosity. We are the most generous. So the issue is, can all 6.5 billion people who want to be a part of this country be a part of this country? I think not. Not only would our landmass not support it, but the same problems they're having in their home countries would become our problem, because there would be far more people taking from the system than there would be putting into it. So that brings us to the situation where you have to decide who can come in and who can't. And that's the battle that we're facing right now. So I saw that audio, and we actually I found some audio of President Obama sending troops to the border, which is really important. And I also saw some video of President Clinton taking. He actually took troops to the border. He sent troops to the border. So did President Bush. So this development by the president is definitely not anything out of the ordinary. In fact, it's not even going to operate the way you would think it would with people going to the border. Most people think when they hear the president sending troops to the border, they think, well, I know what's going to happen. The troops are going to stop people from crossing over who are out in California. And there are certain jurisdictions in California that are fighting back against the whole idea that they have to participate in the sanctuary cities. Now, this is fascinating because we tend to think of California as this liberal bastion, top to bottom, all over. It's nothing but liberalism. But the fact is, there are plenty of people in California who absolutely believe in the rule of law and don't appreciate having their entire state brought to its knees for the cost of illegal immigration. And it is staggering. When we think about how much it costs, we're talking about $115 billion a year that America spends on illegal immigration. They've broken it down on state-by-state basis, and we've shared that information here on the show. Suffice it to say, California bears the largest burden for illegal immigrants because they have the most. And so you would think they would definitely want to, tamp that down because their budget is in such disarray, but they are not. They're actually doubling down on it and trying to go even harder. So it's not a surprise that Numbers USA is reporting that March saw a 200% increase in border apprehensions than March of fiscal year 2017. Customs and Border Protection released a report, and this was yesterday. They released this report yesterday, reporting that they apprehended 50,308 persons, 37% more than in February, and about 200% more than the 16,588 that they apprehended in that same month a year ago. Now, President Trump's...
there's a cute little saying that's also a tad bit dangerous. It goes something like this. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. Now, having raised 4 children, there were times when our kids didn't always ask our permission to certain things. Either they made assumptions about what we would say, or, probably more truthfully, they knew what we were going to say and they didn't want to hear it. When you're under someone else's authority, it's a good idea to get permission before you act. That applies at home, in the workplace, or in society. It's the principle of submission. I love the story in 1 Samuel chapter 23, verses 1 and 2, and then down in verse 5. David was seeking God on whether or not he should go fight the Philistines. What an incredible model. Listen to these words. Then they told David, saying, Behold, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah, and are plundering the threshing floors. David inquired of the Lord, saying, Shall I go and attack these Philistines? And the Lord said to David, Go and attack the Philistines and deliver Keilah. Then down in verse 5, So David and his men went to Keilah and fought the Philistines, and he led away their livestock and struck them with a great slaughter. Then David delivered the inhabitants of Keilah. From this passage of Scripture, we learn two things. Seeking God's permission gives us confidence in the outcome. Then number two, seeking God's permission is a statement of our submission to him. David modeled that. Well, here's what I want you to remember today. It's not always better to ask forgiveness than to ask for permission. Life is uncertain. There's too much at stake. Time is short, and we need to trust the one who certainly is in control.
Legacy Moment is a production of Moody Radio, a ministry of Moody Global Ministries.
This is Stacy on the Right on Urban Family Talk.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the program. It's my pleasure to be with you today. And it's also my pleasure to welcome our next guest. I always love when we have the opportunity to have Kira join the program. I know she's busy. She works over at RedState. RedState.com is the website. She's also a prolific tweeter and purveyor of social media, keeping everyone informed and on their toes. She holds a lot of those Hollywood people to account on online social media. So if you want to follow her on Twitter, check it out. I'm about to tweet her, and you can follow from there. Kira, thanks so much for coming on today.
Hi, how are you? Good to be here.
It's great to have you. So there's a lot brewing in the news right now. Like there seems like there's a million gazillion things. So I'm going to let you take off because I know over at RedState, you guys have a ton of pieces up covering everything.
Well, there is so much going on. I think today, at this very moment, I think the thing that I'm most perturbed about is finding out that the Atlantic fired Kevin Williamson today after one column over there. For those of you who may not know who Kevin Williamson is, he's a brilliant columnist, wrote for National Review Online forever, and was hired by the mainstream publication The Atlantic, which was a great move on their part. And then, of course, somebody started digging up his conservative and libertarian views on abortion and other issues and taking a lot of his things out of context, and people were complaining about it. And so today the Atlantic caved and has decided to fire Kevin Williamson after one been out of the public eye in a week, and it already is starting to fade away. But they're not to not even give Kevin a chance to matriculate over there and to see the type of work that he does. I mean, it's incredible. I find it very disheartening. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, at one time in the early days, Stacey, when you and I first started out in this blogging scene, we were the resistance. We were the counterculture, and just to have our voices out there was a huge victory. But now conservative media does have a voice. We have huge conglomerates that run conservative media. We are, people are getting paid to do it. It's, it's an industry now, and that's great. But if we can't have access to the mainstream platforms and mainstream ideas, then we're kind of back to where we started, which is just our own echo chamber as well. So this whole thing with Trump, I've really been thinking about this a lot, and how his election has driven the rhetoric in this country to extremes, and not him, but just his election. And because people are reacting so quickly and so harshly to ideas that they don't like, the center is being erased, and it's forcing people to be hard left or hard right, and we're losing the center because of this type of hysteria. I find that very, very scary, and I don't know what the answer is.
Well, I think, I agree with you. I find it really, it's almost like, instead of me being afraid of it, I feel a sense of resignation. And I also see that so my natural reaction, Kira, is that when I'm blinded by something, I'll just use myself for example. When I'm blinded by something, usually at some point it becomes apparent that I have a blind spot in that area, because something will happen and I'll be like, whoa, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Or, that's what that looks like to other people. That's usually what my reaction is in my head. I'm like, oh, so that's what that looks like. Wow, that's not a good look. I gotta adjust that. So I keep waiting for liberals to kind of see that, inside, while their kids are eating Tide Pods and their kids are snorting condoms and their kids are literally wearing anatomical suits, like they're knitting together suits that represent female anatomy and wearing them, and then the moms are wearing them. It's like I'm waiting for them to see a picture of themselves on Facebook or to see themselves on the news and go, wait, did I really wear a suit of someone's private parts out to a rally? Or did I really cheer an actress yelling, I want to burn down the White House? I keep waiting for that to happen. But the problem is nothing's happening. Like, no one's waking up. No one's saying, hey, whoa, we've overstepped here. These are still Americans. We're still all Americans. I don't hear that at all. And when I saw what they were doing to Laura Ingraham, that's why I reached out to you. So I wanted you to come on and talk about that. And all of this, it just really hit home to me that,
because that's how normal people act. But social media takes us out of that normalcy. And I think it's been very damaging. And so I don't know, now we've created these echo chambers, and I think the left is working really hard to get Trump reelected in 2020. They don't seem to understand that that's what got him elected in 2016. People were tired of being pushed to the fringes. People were tired of this either or, black or white. And people were saying, you know what, I'm being ignored because all I want to do is I want to have my concerns cared for. I'm concerned about illegal immigration. I'm concerned about, whatever, police violence or whatever. I want to have those issues addressed. And yet every time I ask my politicians to address those, then I'm attacked in social media as a racist and a bigot. And people got tired of that. And so Trump was the response. And they're going to get another response in 2020 at this rate. And then I don't know where we go from there.
So you mentioned Facebook, and this has been something that's been really roiling me personally for the past almost 2 weeks, because so when the first the app came out at first, and I went from using desktop Facebook to using it on my phone all the time, I read through, like, how you skim through the conditions, and I saw a bunch of stuff about them, sharing my information for research purposes, et cetera, et cetera. And so I agreed. I installed the app on my phone, and then I moved forward. Now, when they came out with Messenger, I read a lot of articles of people analyzing what the Messenger app could do. It could turn your camera on. It can turn your microphone on. It can listen to conversations. It can record them. It basically acts like a listening device. It turns your phone into a channel. Last week. And so here we are now. We find out that it wasn't 17 million. It wasn't 55 million. It's 85 million people, most of them in the United States, who've had their information scraped through these apps. And I've just been upset about it. And so our daughter deleted her Facebook. Like, she just deleted it. I deleted the app off of my phone. And I've been trying to figure out a way to get to the people that I want to communicate with without using Facebook. But that's the devil right there. The devil is in the details, and the detail is all of us are using
Right.
Facebook as our primary communication mode. And so I'm so upset that Mark Zuckerberg is taking his non-emotive self around to all these different hearings and saying, we made a mistake. He should be punished. He should be punished for stealing my information and that of 85 million other people. But I don't see that happening because there are a lot of people out there who really think this is about Donald Trump and Cambridge Analytica when really it's about Mark Zuckerberg.
Right. Absolutely. That is absolutely right. It is not about, you're so right. It is not about Cambridge Analytica for the few people who even know what that is. It's not about that. It is about us willingly handing over a big chunk of our lives to this huge corporation and about them being dishonest about what they're doing with our lives. I disagree that we will not, that Facebook is not being punished. I think we are going to see a huge drop off in usage for Facebook. I think we're going to see some legislation coming out, and they may even try to bust that monopoly, bust up the company under monopoly laws. We'll see if that happens. I don't think it should, to be honest with you, because I do think we enter into this relationship with social media when we sign up. You're probably one of the very few people who took the time to read the terms, but it's the risk we all take. But